Welcome everyone to the Positive Partnerships webinar series. Today's webinar is Supporting Successful Transition and Change. This webinar will be recorded, so if you miss anything or you happen to drop out, we will have this uploaded onto our website along with our other webinars in the next couple of weeks. And if you know anyone that missed out, you can at least let them know that this webinar will be recorded. And before we start, just to let you know, our webinar format is quite new. We have a new exciting webinar format for those people who are regular webinar listeners with Positive Partnerships. We'd really like your feedback on our new slides when we send our survey link out at the end, please. So just to welcome the team who will be facilitating today. Also, we do have this webinar on presentation mode due to the number of people that will be online today. It just means that you'll get a much clearer sound, and we will be opening up the lines, hopefully, if we have time at the end for questions. So my name is Rachel Dillon. I'll be one of your facilitators today, and I am the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander team leader. Our other facilitator today is Linda Hunt, and she is our team leader for online professional learning. And in the background, we have Chris Champion, who is our National Coordinator for Projects and Innovations and leads our webinar project for Positive Partnerships. So as a way of welcoming you all, I'm going to get Chris to get our poll up. We'd like to ask you all, in what capacity will you be attending this webinar today? We'd like to know whether you're a parent, a school staff, or perhaps a sector rep or community service worker, a student, or maybe you're even an individual on the spectrum yourself. That's fabulous. I can see everybody clicking in their coloured boxes. Looks like we have a nice mix today. We have quite a few staff members on board, a number of parent carers, some professionals, and we even have an individual on the spectrum, a wonderful range of knowledge and experience with us today. So thank you, everyone. Just to go through some of our webinar tools, excuse me, and technical tools for those people who may not have been online with us and using this system. As you can see, the text box there down the bottom next to the little wheel that's turning, it says type message here. Feel free at any stage during this webinar to ask questions. We will be asking you to share. We find this is a great tool for sharing. Rather than opening up the phone line when we have up over 30 people online, it can get very distracting with background noise. So we'd really like you to interact and participate in this webinar today by placing any questions or sharing any ideas, tools and resources in the text box. You will see your names up the top, and you can scroll through the list of names to see who's on board. And if you missed anything in your text box, you can also use the little scroll bar on the side there to scroll up and down in your text box. And right down in the bottom left-hand corner, you even have an icon where you can change how you're feeling today. If you click on the little face down the bottom, you'll see that you can have a smiley face, or perhaps you can put your hand up if you have a question, although we do request that if you do have a question, you type it into the text box so that one of the team can respond. We'd also like parents to respond to any text message questions if they have some ideas for other parents, or teachers or staff members or professionals that may have answers or sharing with each other. We really do believe that you all have knowledge to share today. So like I said, we will be opening up, hopefully, opening up the lines at the end for any questions verbally. Otherwise, we encourage you to continue to use the text box. All the links and resources that we share today during this webinar will be emailed to everybody following the webinar. And like I said, please visit our website in a couple of weeks if you'd like to listen to the recording and catch up. So now we want to ask a little bit about your child or the young person or people that you may be supporting in your profession or at school. So we're going to ask Chris to pop our second poll up, and this poll will be asking us, what is the age range of the child or young person or the children that you may support or work with? We'll just give everyone a moment to click on the correct age range. We certainly have a lot of people supporting or with children in the 5 to 8 range. That seems to be our highest range today. And then we've got a little bit of a spread from 9 to 12 and 13 to 17, with no one today supporting anyone under 5 or over 18. That's wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Over the next hour, our group intention is to cover these areas. So we'll be looking at a range of transitions, reflecting on how important it is to work in teams and plan ahead, to explore key principles in making sure transitions and change are successful, and looking and exploring at some tools and strategies. We want you to think and take a moment now about your intention. How can you best utilise this next hour? Think about this, but at the same time, remember the most important thing is keeping your young person or child and their transitions at the forefront of your mind. Transitions are not the same as orientation, and sometimes this is confused. Orientation is for all people or students, and it typically involves a one-day visit to a new setting or place, and the purpose is to see this new setting and to meet the significant people in the setting and become familiar and orientated. For today's webinar, we're going to be focusing on transitions, and the dictionary definition of transition is the passage from one position, state, stage to another. So I'd like you all now to think of a time when you yourself had a particular transition to manage in your life. It may have been a new job, moving house, moving countries even. And I want you to think about what emotions and feelings can you please describe. So please write your answers in the text box. How are you feeling during this big change and transition in your life? What were you experiencing emotionally? Fear, Wendy has said, and stress. Ali has said overwhelmed. Kerry has said anxiety, short fuse. Few people experiencing anxiety, nerves, stress, lack of confidence is a good one. A great loss and losing a home. Nervous, confused, excitement, wanting knowledge, self-doubt, worry, concern. Thank you all for sharing. Quite a number of people have mentioned feeling anxious and nervous and concerned and worried. So bearing that in mind, take into consideration now why transitions might be difficult for our young people on the autism spectrum. Have a think and write some answers now, bearing in mind how you felt during a big change or transition. Why do you think transitions like this are often really difficult and really stressful for many children on the autism spectrum? Fear of the unknown, Lyndall has said. Challenged with change, that's right, Wendy, often because of their need for routine. Yes, and Chris has mentioned routine, breaking out of that. Definitely like consistency, Anna. Our concerns are tenfold. Thank you, Christy, for being honest, and not understanding the change, instability, fear of failure, lack of familiarity, sensory difficulties, yes, past experiences, and being difficult predicting the future, that's right. New environment, unknown again, uncertainty. That's right. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. So this passage between states and stages can represent a myriad of changes throughout the day, the week, the month, the term, or even the year for our young people. Each child on the spectrum will cope with transition in a different way. Some transitions may require more detailed planning than others. What we do know is that difficulties coping with transitions and changes are common among children on the spectrum. Some of these reasons have already been mentioned, especially anxiety. So higher levels of anxiety are very common among children on the spectrum. They're rigid and repetitive behaviours and thoughts, and along with that comes that need or want for routine. They can often have longer processing time, so a few people mentioned the fear of the unknown, so needing to understand the transition. Missing verbal and social cues for change can be another factor. And difficulties communicating. They may not understand what you're trying to tell them about the transition, and theory of mind can often impact why transitions are difficult for our young people on the spectrum. I'm going to ask you all now another question to share in our text box. What transitions does your child encounter on a daily basis that may cause concern? What transitions happen on a regular day in your home or school that might cause some anxiety or concern? What are some transitions? Leaving the house, Bronwyn has said, yep. Getting ready from school, yes, Wendy has said from home to school. Moving from playtime to learning time, often a challenge in schools. Changing school tasks, lessons, classroom to playground, from one activity to another. Changes in teachers is a huge one, yes. Changing groups, going from school to gym, and then turning them off when they get to turning the TV off when they get to another subject, from subject to subject when a teacher is away. Yes, lots of daily transitions. So we've got a few coming in here. Bedtime, I think a few people may have mentioned home to school and school to home, but we've also got bedtime. Can be a problem for some homes and families. Bell times, I think somebody mentioned that. And somebody also mentioned TV, having visitors. Mum's house to dad's house, Bronwyn has said, that can be a very challenging thing. Changes to their body or health of a family member. And somebody also had mentioned moving from one class to the next. Thank you, everyone. Play dates is another one. Thank you, Naomi. And dinner time. Thanks, Joanne. What transitions might your child encounter through a lifetime? So now we're breaking away from thinking of one day and thinking about their whole life. What transitions might your young people face throughout their lifetime? Just sharing some of those transitions again in the text box. Leaving school, big one. That progression to work. Leaving home, changes in peer groups. Thanks, Kelly. Jobs, yes. Puberty, thank you, Bronwyn. A wedding, yes. Changes in family structure. Primary to secondary school can often be a big challenge. Becoming independent, yes, something a lot of parents and families worry about. And relationships, a really important one. Preschool to primary school. Family and friend loss, that's a huge one. And transition to work. Let's have a look now at some of the ones that we've got listed, and I think you'll find that most of you have come up with them. So we've got prep to primary, a new sibling, changing class or grade, moving house, going from car rides to buses or bikes to school, And of course, quite a few people mentioned transition from school to work and changing class and grade level. And quite a few people mentioned puberty. Divorce or separation was mentioned. And of course, loss was mentioned. Thank you, Anna. Birth, death, illness in the family. Sharing rooms is another thing that can be a challenge, or going from sharing room to their own room or vice versa. Thank you for sharing. So lots of times can be possible potential challenges for our young children on the spectrum. I'm now going to hand over to Linda, who will take us through why transition planning is important and then look at some tools and resources and ways to support. Thanks, Linda.
Thank you, Rachel. Great to see everyone got some fantastic ideas there with the types of different transitions, you know, from daily and for those long-term and one-off transitions. So now that we've had a look at times of transitions and some of the reasons why they may be more difficult for young people on the spectrum, we are now going to look at how planning may help. There are a number of questions that need to be asked to assist in transition planning. The answer to who, what, when, where and why questions will help with this planning process. There's evidence that suggests people on the spectrum respond better to transitions and change when it's supported by a planning process with involvement from key stakeholders. Transition plans need to be tailored to the individual, and no two plans are the same. Plans for each child will vary in strategies and length. Because people on the spectrum often require extra time to process information, forewarning helps, as do autism-specific support such as visuals. And the level of forewarning and planning for change required by individuals on the spectrum may vary from one person to another and from one event to another. So, planning, holidays. When we're going on a holiday, we plan. We plan where to go, what to take, who can help, the currency, itinerary, and so on. A good holiday takes time to research and plan. Planning for transitions is just as important and similar to travel planning in many ways. So what I'd like you to do now in the text box is think about a holiday that you've planned or are currently planning, seeing as how we're coming up to the end of the year. And what did you have to think about, and what sorts of things did you need to take? So if you just take a couple of minutes to type in the text box and think about your holiday plans, what did you think about? What different types of things did you take on that holiday? Your trip to UK, excellent. Itinerary, presents for Christmas, that's a good one at this time, passport. Oh, someone's like me, they write a list of what to pack, yep. Where to stay, the weather, flight details, a language book, yes. Activities and clothing, money. Oh, some great things going on there, especially that appropriate clothing, thanks Amanda. Medication, snacks, Kylie, excellent. The kids, oh yeah, Wendy, well done, yep, remember to take them. How to get around, excellent. A spare pair of prescription glasses, yes, I do understand that. And organising what you have to do at home while you're away. Fantastic ideas. Thank you everyone, keep them coming. Important documents, copies, yeah, passport, cameras, to feed the cat, yep. Thank you. That's just amazing. Thank you so much. I can see that lots of people in holiday planning mode, so that's really good to see. So holiday planning includes, you know, climate, location, we mentioned vaccinations, lots of people mentioned accommodation, the methods of travel, and insurance is a good one as well. And the turn, in fact, for clothing we pack, many people mentioned, you know, appropriate clothing for the different activities we were going to do. Lots of people said we need a passport, our medication, our maps and brochures, or these days we use travel apps quite often. And as we've already discussed, transitions can be a time of difficulty for a young person on the autism spectrum. However, with successful planning and consideration, these times can become more manageable and less stressful. So now I'd like you to have another think and share. Have a think about and share what factors might be important in transition planning. So consider the who, what, where, when, and why when you were perhaps considering a transition for your young person. What types of things would you think of? That's a great one, familiar faces. Yeah, thanks, Danielle. Stability, teachers, social stories, excellent. Maps of school. Where are the bathrooms? Yes, that's a really important one. Where to go for help? Fabulous. To know that mum is there no matter what. That's excellent. Thanks, Bronwyn. Visits prior to going? Yep. Class routine and expectations lists and visual timetables. Fabulous. Really great collection of different things. Videos and photos are an excellent idea, Naomi. Yes. Yep. Book lists, supplies, the types of things you need. Fantastic. A uniform, the dreaded uniform. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you everyone. Really good discussions about what's the same and what's different. I love that. Thank you, Anna. Yep, that's right, because some things quite often will stay the same. How loud is the cafeteria or the canteen? Yep, just talking about those sensory issues. Fantastic. And supporting routine and security objects. Great. Thank you so much. The school, yep, at different times of the day is important as well because they can be very different. Thanks, Kelly. All right, so whether a holiday or time of transition, the planning can add to the excitement, ensuring a successful outcome for all involved. So we've just had some pretty great lists of things there. So can we see the similarity between planning for our holiday and planning for a transition or a time of change? So we had on our holiday, we're planning for a transition or a time of change. So we had on our holiday, we needed a map of the country. We've had people mentioning that we needed a map of the school, a school timetable. That type of thing would equate to an itinerary. We had people talking about medications and vaccinations that you might need when you travel. And once again, we need to consider those sorts of things when we're talking about daily medications in a new transition place. Someone mentioned a uniform before, and that equates to the type of clothing that we need to pack when we are going on a holiday, or to when we're transition planning for after school activity and what change of clothing might be needed there as well. So that's excellent. Thank you so much. Some really great ideas. Okay, I'm going to get Chris to upload just a really short video clip for us now. It's going to introduce why young people on the spectrum may have difficulty with change. If you have dialed in, can I get you to mute your phone and turn the sound up on your computer? If you're only using the sound on your computer, then you don't need to do anything. And I'll come back to you. I'll leave a couple of seconds after the end of this.
We're going to talk today about how to build tolerance to changes in the child's routine so that we can reduce those behaviors when the changes happen. We're going to talk about how to build flexibility and adaptive skills. Oftentimes, children on the spectrum, when there are changes in the routine, they can become quite anxious and act out. And those behaviors can cause us problems as parents and therapists. So we're going to talk today about how you can control the environment and build changes into routines and in essence, building flexibility in the child's routine and schedule. So children on the spectrum react very differently to change than most neurotypically developing people do. These children love routine, and then when their routines are broken, what do they do? What do you do? So, and we have to teach these children what to do when their routine is broken, so we can do it in a controlled environment where we can modify the behavior appropriately. So we have to teach flexibility, because flexibility for children on the spectrum is a learned behavior. And we're going to do it by controlling that environment. And once that environment is controlled, we can then generalize to other settings with other people, other places, and really work on those skills in the general areas. So I'm going to talk about 4 different kinds of things that we're going to do. We're going to talk about weight cards, command cards, changing the schedule, and then surprise cards. And we'll talk about the pros of using them, and I'll even give you a couple tips there.
Okay, I hope everyone managed to hear that little brief sort of clip and introduction with some different skills were discussed in that clip about preparing for change, and this is what we equate to our transition planning. So all the skills that were discussed in the clip are really the foundations for successful transition planning. So you need to teach your child about change, okay? So change is a bit scary, but it's okay. Focus on the positive change. So a chrysalis turns into a beautiful butterfly. Provide supports for change. Lots of people mentioned earlier about having visual schedules and routines and sequences. We've talked about social stories. Also includes a support team of people who can help the young person prepare for change across those settings. To practice change, when your child is calm and relaxed and ready to experience that change in a positive fashion. You can role play with family members to teach strategies to cope with change appropriately, like going to a safe place to calm down. Earlier we spoke about meal times, perhaps being a difficult transition time. That would be perfect to involve the rest of your family in a role play around that. To reinforce appropriate responses to change. Remember, what we reinforce and praise, we get more of. And as has been mentioned already, highlight what stays the same. So the child may move classrooms, but the toilet, library and canteen are still in the same place. Or they might be moving schools, but their best friend will still be going to that same school. Let's have a think about transitions at school, because quite a few of the comments have been about those types of things. What I'd like you to do is think about strategies or support people that have helped you with your young person at transitions that might happen at home or at school. So who are the different types of people or different types of things that you may have used? And thanks, Rachel's just uploaded the clip to that little clip we just watched if you wanted to share that with someone else. Teacher aides. Yep, the additional needs team, excellent. Trusted family member, that's great. Yep, the best friend Lyndall can definitely help you out. Counsellor, thanks Chris. Fantastic. Setting expectations for 2 shows before turning TV on, excellent. A peer, friends, teacher aides, family, that's great. Thank you very much. Lots of discussions, that's right. Anna. Siblings can help too and provide that support, particularly when you're talking about school or different after-school activities, those sorts of things. Excellent. A support dog, that's a great idea. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of different support that we can get for those school transitions. That visual timetable and a week's program is a great idea. That's right. So that's about accessing that information. Okay, get the school to give you some warning if there's going to be change, all right, or anything different. Ask questions. Develop a transition plan. And lots of you have already mentioned working with a special needs teacher or a support team. Have a look at that, what's required by who and when. And remember that the transition needs of each child will be different, and what worked one year for your young person may not work with a similar transition the following year. Create support, such as visual sequences and social stories, and those sensory support. Yes, effective communication is definitely the key there, okay, making sure that everyone is speaking and being listened to and being able to contribute. And to evaluate, I think that's really important and comes in as part of that effective communication. Was the transition support plan effective? What could have been done better, or what could have been changed? That's a great one. Yes, Naomi. Communicate regularly. There's no point leaving things until the last minute to get these plans in place and have that regular communication with teachers. Everyone wins when that happens. Okay, so just next 3 slides are just running through a bit of an idea about what Naomi's probably just written about upcoming plans. This is an idea about a simple transition plan with planning for a school sports day. School sports days can always be one of those fun times when there's lots of different noises and those sorts of things as well. So the transition starts with the teacher, the parent, and always a student, if at all possible, for the up-and-coming school sports day. They discuss what's going to be different, what will be the same, where it's going to be, considering sensory processing difficulties such as the starting gun, the whistle, cheering, and lots of active people can all be very overwhelming on those sports days. The next part of a transition plan is to have those opportunities for practicing and role-playing about what's going to happen on the day. So it's important that leading up to the day, that young person has had opportunities to practice, possibly visit the venue if possible, maybe watch a video of a previous sports day, I think that was mentioned before, prepare any visuals that may assist, and particularly work out where to go if timeout or a safe place is needed. I'm not sure how many sports teachers would look like that these days. And the last part is the day of the actual sports carnival or sprint race. So due to the planning and implementation supports, the child is ready for the change to go to that school routine on that day. They've got an understanding of what to expect, possibly a contingency plan if things do not go to plan. They have a successful day, which may in turn help with future ideas and times of transition and change. So there's some great conversations going on here about talking to teachers, pre-teachers from previous years. That's great suggestions as well, and definitely helps with this planning. Fantastic. Thanks for sharing, Bendel and Kylie. Sometimes when planning, a checklist might help with transition to keep track of who's going to be doing what and what to revisit when you come back to. Chris is going to provide thank you, Donna, preempting our planning matrix. We're going to discuss that very shortly. Chris is just going to provide a link to an example of a template in the text box, and he'll also be sent this following the webinar. Just a generic checklist that you can update and change to suit your setting and your young person and the actual transition that you're going to be planning for. Thanks, Chris. Okay, spoken about visual supports quite a lot, which is great to see. So lots of people are obviously using them. This is one of the first ones that lots of people Is that better? Brandon, sorry. Okay. Hopefully Okay, apologies for those of you that it might be a bit muffled. I'll try and keep the mic as close to my mouth as possible. Okay, thanks. We'll see how we go. All right, so the first visual support we've got up here is one that's used really quite regularly and quite often, both at home and at school and planning for other different events. So a first and then card where you have a selection of activities and things that needed to be done by a young person, and you can put them into the first and then. So first of all we have maths, and then we get to play some Pokemon. Social stories we've spoken about. Social stories can be as detailed or as simple as you would like to make them. They can be hand-drawn, they can use clip art, they can use just pictures of the young person, but they really are a good idea to help prepare for that transition and change. We have a visual schedule we've spoken about before, and once again they can be as simple or as complex as they need to be. I think the young people quite often enjoy being involved in creating their own visual schedules for use at home and at school. And then we've also mentioned a weekly timetable that can help in all different settings, okay, whether that be just talking about school, whether it be the family calendar that's used as a what's on when and who's doing what. They all are really, really successful. Okay. As was mentioned before, we had someone mention that the planning matrix is a great way of sharing information with the teacher for the following year. It can also be used outside of school settings just to inform people about what transition challenges may be faced by your child and what strategies will work for them. So the planning matrix can help us determine if the issue with transitioning might stem from a communication issue, a sensory issue, or a learning processing challenge. We cover this tool in our workshops. However, if you've not been to one of our workshops, you will find lots of information on how to use the planning matrix on our website. You can also complete an online course teaching you how to use the planning matrix through our online learning portal. So just for example, with this matrix, if we were to use a sensory processing issue, we can step through and have a look at the characteristics for this young person. That they cry when the bell rings, they're always moving out of the seat during class time. And the impact that this is having is it's always upsetting when moving between class and breaks, reduced time for learning, and it can be distracting for others. So some strategies that we might be able to try is options to reduce the bell, for example, music, reduce the volume of the bell, pre-warn the student before the bell rings, use picture sequences to support moving in and out of class. So that's just one row of the matrix for this particular young person, so it might be a useful tool for you to explore further if you haven't already. Right, some other resources. So the travel analogy that we use today, or the holiday analogy, is further explored in the online module supporting successful transitions and change. We encourage you to explore this module and get a better understanding around the use of the support team in this approach. The link to the planning matrix, Lyndall, you can access that on our website if you go to resources or just in our search bar at the top right-hand corner of our website and just type in planning matrix. You'll see that. We have 3 different types of matrix to suit different students and learning styles. So, what transitions can you foresee for your child on the horizon? You have to get an idea of where to from here. What is one thing you're going to do following this webinar? What is an action that you can create for yourself right now? Okay, so the planning matrix for those people that might have missed is on our website. If you go to our website and in the search bar in the top right-hand corner, just type in planning matrix, you'll be brought up with the direct link to the planning matrix. Rachel's just provided that for you now in the text box. So can I ask you to share where you think you might go from now as far as specific transitions for your young person? Is there something you're going to do after this webinar to put something in place for maybe next year or in Christmas holidays that are coming up? It'd be great to see what sorts of things you're sharing. Excellent. Brainstorm with staff strategies for new teacher and classroom next year. That's a great way to start. Good communication. Yes, new school clothing and bag early. Cut those tags off if you need to and practice with it. Talk with teacher for next year. That's great. I like that idea, Lyndall, a one-page summary. Like the idea of established supports for the child. Yes, so include that child. Visual timetables for the first day. That's fabulous. And play dates over summer with new classmates. That's a great idea too. And to include the child with you. Take him shopping for new year stuff next year. That's great, Bronwyn. Practice eating from their school lunchbox. Fabulous. And that can be really fun to do, especially with young ones that are just starting school. And organise a meeting with teacher before term 1 starts. Great. Take in books and set up locker. Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Get new teachers to meet the child before next year. Okay. Most school teachers are back to school before the kids all start, so that might be, you might be able to organise a meeting or something like that before the school's inundated with children. A big calendar, excellent. Those family planning calendars are great. Thank you so much. Yes, so there's opportunities for relationships with that new teacher. That new teacher's not going to know what your young person's into unless you provide that sort of information, so that's really good. That's a good idea too, Amanda. Visit the school after 3 p.m. when it's a bit quieter. Cool. Some fantastic ideas. Thank you so much for sharing. Thanks, Suzanne. That's good. Pass on visuals that are being used this year to next year's teachers so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. Excellent. So Naomi's already completed a prep transition, provided social stories and entered data into personalised learning plan. Excellent. Some great relationships with schools going on. And using your iPad, fantastic, of those new locations. Thank you, everyone. That's fantastic. So who can you work with to support and plan this transition? That's a bit null and void, me asking that after I've all just seen your fantastic things that you have open and plans that you've got ready to go underway. Sounds like you've got some amazing relationships established, which is fantastic. Okay, additional needs teachers, great. Teacher aides, previous teachers, yes, use those previous teachers. It's a great idea, particularly for people who work in schools, and talking to the new teacher as well. So you start off the year really successful. The child themselves, most important. Thanks, Suzanne. Excellent. Very good. And thanks. Rachel's just said that we're going to leave the platform open for 10 minutes following the webinar, so you can write down any of those ideas that people were madly putting up before. You can scroll back and have a look. Okay. So we've spoken about our website, and it offers a range of courses for parents and professionals, as well as fact sheets and all of our workshop tools to download. So if you can see, it's quite small, but in the top right-hand corner of our website page is a search bar that I was speaking about with the planning matrix, or anything at all that you're interested in. If you were just to write in about transitions and change, you would find the link to our online module about transitions and change as well. Our homepage, which you see here, is where parents and carers can go to register for upcoming workshops. And currently our parent carer workshops for the beginning of next year are already in that top right-hand purple box. So if you're interested parents, you could go on and have a look and see whether we're coming to a place near you. School staff, though, for professional learning opportunities, need to talk to their sector reps, and they will let you know what's coming up in your area. We also have a Facebook page which has over 7,000 followers, and our Facebook page has tips, chat topics and information regarding the support of school-aged children on the spectrum. We encourage you to leave comments, videos and links. However, we do review all posts and will remove any that we deem offensive or inappropriate. Okay, so I think we will probably have time to open the lines up for a few questions if anyone would like to do that. So I'm just going to attempt to do that now, so just bear with me for just one moment.
The moderator has placed the conference into conversation mode. All participants are now unmuted.
Okay, so you're now unmuted, which means that you can ask the question over the audio line. You may need to, if you are hearing some background noise, you might need to put yourself on mute on your phone if you don't wish to ask a question. Or if you would feel more comfortable typing a question into the text box, feel free to go ahead there. But before we start with that, I might just bring your attention to the survey link that is in green at the bottom right-hand corner of the page screen that's currently up now. That's a Survey Monkey. So we would love your feedback about the webinar so we can continuously improve these as we do. So if you could follow that survey link. As we said, we'll leave this open for 10 minutes following, and we'll also send you the link to the survey after the webinar. Are there any questions from anyone? Okay. Information or tip sheets in other languages. Magdalena, yes, we do. We have 8 different languages and translated fact sheets on our website. So we have Chinese, Vietnamese, Arabic. Other team members might have to help me out. I can't remember them all.
Turkish.
Turkish, there you go. Yep, Turkish and Thai. Thanks, Suzanne. And thank you to those that are leaving us. That's great. Yes, so those resources are all available on that website as well. Yeah, so you'll be able to access the webinar. Will be on the website. Normally in a couple of weeks it will be actually downloaded there or uploaded so that you can listen to it and watch it again and share it with anyone perhaps that has missed it. Okay, so Rachel's also provided a link there to if you'd like a copy of the slides from today. That would be great. So I think we might close this up now if people don't have any more questions. And we thank you all for joining us and hope that you're able to join us again for another future webinar or look into our workshops that we might offer. And thanks, Rach, for reminding everyone to do the survey again. There certainly are, Sabrina. If you have a look, Positive Partnerships travels to Hobart quite regularly, or to Tasmania quite regularly. So if you're looking for a parent carer workshop, there's one in Hobart early in term 1 next year. If you go to the Positive Partnerships website and have a look in the top right-hand corner, there's a purple box that gives you the details about upcoming parent carer workshops. And if you're in education, you need to talk to your ed sector reps. We also had one, I understand that, Bronwyn, we held a workshop in Burnie this year as well. So we do get around and are going to different places as well. Just keep an eye on that website. Yeah, thanks, Chris. I wasn't sure whether Sabrina actually heard me. Okay, seeing as how there's no questions coming over the audio, I'm just going to put everyone back on mute again. But we'll still be online here for a while to help you out if you have any other questions.